Hey everybody, unapologetic truth here. Just wanted to come on and share what's been on my heart for some days now. Really talking specifically to those YouTubers who have a ministry and may have somewhat of a following in regard to that ministry. Um, and I'm not going to name channels or any of that because that's not relevant. The content of what I'm going to share is more relevant than that. But it's been heavy on my heart, and I definitely wanted to get on and share this, and hopefully it will reach, well, prayerfully, if it be Yah's will, it will reach the intendeds. But I know there's been some YouTubers that I've followed recently in the past several years, and they've truly been a blessing to me, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. I have some YouTubers have had ministries that really have encouraged me and helped me strengthen my walk and change some things in regard to my walk. And just things that they've shared current event wise have been invaluable. I'm specifically talking also to the women YouTubers that may have a following, because I'm noticing some things and it's just not sitting right with my spirit. And I've one particular YouTuber that I was following early on, I've actually reached out to them several times and tried to just share some things in regard to what I was seeing. And basically, I'm saying all this to say we cannot be distractions or stumbling blocks to people that we're trying to bring into the fold, into the knowledge of Yahushua HaMashiach, or as the world terms, Jesus Christ. And we have to be very mindful of how we do things, especially on these social media platforms that are Babylonian in nature. We have to be extremely mindful that we are not stumbling blocks to people. And I'm saying this to both males and females. This particular statement is not just specifically to the women, but I'll break that down shortly in regard to what I'm talking about. That has been heavy on my heart. But overall, we can't be stumbling blocks to people, especially those that may be new in the faith and are still learning. We cannot hinder their progress. And oftentimes what they see, they're going to be going by, as opposed to what the spirit or the Ruach is guiding them on. Again, when they're new in the faith, they're still learning some things that they need to be led by the Spirit. So initially, they're going to be like anybody else that may just be coming upon some information. Initially they're going to see the visual. They're going to pay attention to the visual, as opposed to those that may be stronger in their faith, in their walk, and know that we're to test every spirit. whether it's truly of Yahuwah or God, as the world terms it. So, saying again, all of this to say, we have to be very mindful how we move out here. So I'm referring to, when I talk about the women, for example, there was this one YouTuber again that I'm referring to early on. They share current events, and they were just really blessing me overall. But as I started to get stronger and come into the knowledge of the truth and get out of Churchianity, the Ruach was revealing some things. And one of the first things that I noticed about this particular YouTuber was their makeup. I mean, they had a lot of makeup on. And I'm like, okay, I can't even focus on what's being said because this person was such a distraction to me because of all the makeup they had on, but then they they were quick to want to term themselves an evangelist. And that's all I'm going to say on that. But I'm totally not even paying attention to what's being said in this video at this point because I can't get over how much makeup this person had on. And I'm like, we are supposed to be set apart. The word specifically tells us to come out from among them and be ye separate. So it's not just talking about when you're trying to seek a mate. It's other things, and we can't take it as if it's in regard to one or two items. We have to look at it, the bigger picture. So it's other things. We have to come out and be separate because we are set apart. We are Kadesh. We are holy. We can't be like what the world is signifying, how they're portraying themselves. We can't follow that path because we know that's the broad path. And the word also talks about the broad path will eventually lead to destruction. Narrow is the path we're supposed to be on. And it also refers to the fact that few are going to find that path. So if we're living as we're to be living, we can't be like the world is. So as I stated, I did reach out to this YouTuber in regard to that. Because understand, we as believers, we have such a thing as righteous judgment. So we can come at that person that's in the faith. We can come at them, especially if the beam is out of our eye. We can certainly come to them. But first and foremost, we need to make sure we're straight. We can't come at them and we're doing the most, or we're not being as we ought to be. So we need to check ourselves first before we come to them. The word is very clear on that. And so I'm looking at myself too. If I'm not correct, then y'all forgive me. Forgive me because I don't want to be incorrect out here. I don't want there to be any kind of plank in my eye. I want to be holy. I want to be Kadesh, set apart before him. None of these people out here make any difference. because they don't have a heaven or hell to put me in. It's only what's done for the Father is going to last. And no one else is going to be standing in judgment with me. It's going to be me and him. So I want to make sure I'm correct. 100%. But I know I sin. We all sin and fall short of his glory on a daily basis. That's why we have to constantly check ourselves. But there's also another YouTuber that I follow, and I've been truly encouraged by her ministry. But I noticed some things in regard to some things that have been shared recently, and I'm like, okay, so I'm also feeling like, I don't know, my spirit is really not sitting right on some things, because over the years and months, every now and then she'll put a video out that talks about how people are dressed that are in the faith, what they're wearing, and giving admonishment. Admonish, yeah, I hope I'm saying that right, but admonishing those that are in the faith that are wearing certain things, primarily women, but also some other things in regard to that. And speaking along those lines, but what hasn't been sitting right in my spirit, and what has prompted me to do this video, is that this particular YouTuber is saying these things, but I'm like, don't you got a weave in your hair? Like, okay, you're talking about what believers are wearing, but yet and still you're wearing a weave of some sort. I'm assuming it's a weave, maybe a wig. Regardless, you're not being yourself. Like, that's not at all. Unless you have two hairs on your head, kind of thing, and forgive me, I don't want to I'm not trying to disrespect those that may be ill and may need to feel like they need to wear a wig to feel better about themselves. But it's a source of pride is what I'm basically trying to say. And you can't talk about what someone's wearing, how low cut their outfit is, and they're supposed to be a believer, or things of that nature, or the eyelashes they have on and everything else. You can't talk about those things, and you're up here, pretty much doing the same thing by having a weave in your hair or having a wig on, and you have hair. It just didn't sit right with me. And I'm like, you can't talk about somebody else. Meanwhile, the beam is in your eye. Like, you can't do that, and maybe people aren't realizing that do that. They need to understand and do a little more research. But some of these weaves and wigs are made in countries that worship idols. We all know China, for one. These wigs are maybe being manufactured in places that are idolizing Buddha. Or you may be getting your weave or wig from a shop, and you may not see Buddha sitting in the front, but you don't know what is in the back. They might have a whole shrine set up. You have no idea. And here you go, buying that weave or wig. Have no clue what's back there. Just like in Chris Rock years ago came out with the documentary called Good Hair. I encourage every Black woman to watch that if they have not watched that, because it was an eye-opener. Because I had no idea that in India, it's part of their religious practice to cut their hair off. So what do? They cut their hair off in regard to their religion, which is Hinduism is their number one religion. And this is based on Hinduism. They cut their hair off, and eventually they treat it and do whatever they need to do in regard to it. And before you know it, it's getting sold. It's going to the USA for selling. So basically, whoever's buying these they're idolizing these religions, because you're signifying, you're giving the okay, because you're patronizing these shops, or you may be buying it online wholesale, and you don't know where this stuff is coming from. You don't know the origin of it. And not to mention that there's spirits attached to things. Like, are you praying over your weave and your wig before you put it on your head? Not to mention there's bugs. Like, some of this stuff is not sanitary. I mean, it's a lot. But all of this is just to make yourself look good, or is it about convenience? Because trust me, I have a whole bin full of weaves and wigs. So I know I'm not just talking to be talking, okay? Like, I could very easily put one on my head. Them bad hair days, it was extra convenient for me to do that. And I used to do hair. So I had no problem sticking some hair on my head. So I'm definitely talking on something I know all too well about. And I haven't gotten rid of all mine yet, because I'm trying to decide if I'm going to donate any of it, any of the wigs that I have, to the cancer center. I don't know what I'm going to do in regard to that, but I didn't want to just get rid of it. But as I'm going through and talking this through in this video, I believe I already know what I'm going to do, because I'm not trying to be a hypocrite either. And again, I'm still learning some things, and I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be. But I press toward the mark, toward the prize of a higher calling in Yahushua HaMashiach.